My brother stole our parents' identity to fund his gambling addiction, and I'm being blamed for not helping him enough. Hey everyone, I've seen some great advice on here, so I thought I'd give this a shot. This situation is a nightmare, and I'm at my breaking point. For context, I'm Sarah, 29 female, married to my husband Alex, 31 male, for 3 years. We met during our college years when we were both part of the same study group for our engineering courses. At first, we were just friends, bonding over our shared love for problem solving and late-night coffee runs. It wasn't until our senior year that we realized there was something more between us. We started dating, and after graduation, we both landed jobs in the same city. I work as a project manager at a tech company, overseeing the development of new software applications. It's a challenging job, but I love the fast-paced environment and the opportunity to work with talented developers. Alex is an engineer at a renewable energy firm, designing wind turbines. He's always been passionate about sustainable energy, and his work allows him to contribute to a cause he believes in. We've been saving for a house and thinking about starting a family soon. We both come from big families and have always wanted children of our own. We've been looking at houses in the suburbs, dreaming of a place with a big backyard where our future kids could play. My younger brother, Kyle, 25 male, has always been the baby of the family. There's a 4-year age gap between us, and I practically raised him since our parents were always busy with work. Our dad was a successful businessman who traveled a lot, and our mom was a high-powered attorney who often worked late nights. They provided well for us financially, but they weren't always around emotionally. Growing up, I helped Kyle with his homework, took him out on weekends, and made sure he had everything he needed. I remember teaching him how to ride a bike, staying up late to help him with his science fair projects, and comforting him when he had his first heartbreak. We used to be close, sharing secrets and inside jokes that only siblings could understand. Kyle was always a bit of a free spirit. While I was the responsible one, always planning and thinking ahead, Kyle lived in the moment. He was popular in school, always surrounded by friends and up for any adventure. I admired his carefree attitude, even if it sometimes worried me. Everything changed after our dad passed away last year. It was sudden, a heart attack that no one saw coming. The loss hit our family hard, but Kyle took it especially badly. He had always been closer to our dad, sharing his love for sports and outdoor activities. Losing him left Kyle feeling lost and adrift. Our father left behind a pretty sizable inheritance, split equally between Kyle and me. It wasn't an astronomical amount, but it was enough to give us both a good cushion. I was planning to invest my share into buying a house and securing my future. I saw it as a way to honor our dad's memory by using the money responsibly to build a stable life. Kyle, however, had other ideas. He's always been reckless with money, preferring to spend on experiences rather than save for the future. But after Dad's death, it got much worse. He started going out more, spending money on expensive clothes and nights out. I think he was trying to numb the pain of losing our dad, but it quickly spiraled out of control. At first, Kyle kept his gambling under wraps. It started small, a few bets on sports games here and there. But soon, he was spending more and more time at casinos and online gambling sites. I noticed he was becoming more secretive, always checking his phone and disappearing for hours without explanation. It didn't take long for things to spiral out of control. Kyle blew through his share of the inheritance in less than 6 months, gambling away every last cent. I remember the night he came to me in tears, asking for help. He confessed everything, how he'd lost all the money, how he was in debt to some dangerous people. I was furious, but he's my brother, so I gave him some money to tide him over, thinking it was just a one-time emergency. I didn't tell Alex because I thought it was a family matter and didn't want to burden him with the mess Kyle had created. Alex and Kyle had always had a somewhat tense relationship. Kyle often made jokes about Alex being too serious or boring, while Alex found Kyle's behavior immature and irresponsible. I thought I could handle the situation on my own and keep the peace between them. Big mistake. Kyle came back a few weeks later, asking for more. He said he was getting help and promised to stop gambling. He talked about joining a support group and seeing a therapist. I believed him, after all, who wouldn't want to stop after losing that much money, right? I gave him more money, hoping it would be the last time. But as the weeks went on, it became clear that Kyle wasn't changing. He was still gambling and making excuses for why he couldn't pay me back. I'd see posts on social media of him at parties or on expensive trips, all while claiming he had no money to repay me. The final straw came when he asked me for a loan to rebuild his life. He talked about starting a business, saying he had a great idea that would make us all rich. This time, I said no. I told him I wasn't going to give him any more money and that he needed to take responsibility for his actions. Kyle blew up at me, calling me selfish and accusing me of hoarding the inheritance. He brought up every time I'd ever said no to him, twisting my words to make it seem like I'd never cared about him. He even accused me of being glad that our dad was gone so I could control the money. His words hurt more than I could express. I thought that was the end of it, but a few days later, I started getting calls from our mom. She was upset, saying Kyle had told her I was refusing to help him and that I was trying to keep all of the family inheritance for myself. He had twisted the story, making it sound like I was hoarding money that should have gone to him. My mom's always had a soft spot for Kyle, and she seemed to believe every word he said. I tried explaining to her that Kyle had gambled away his entire share and that I had already given him more than enough help, but she didn't want to hear it. She accused me of being cold-hearted and said family was supposed to help each other out, no matter what. She brought up all the times I'd taken care of Kyle when we were younger, asking how I could abandon him now. The rest of the family got involved soon after, and suddenly I was the bad guy for not bailing Kyle out. They didn't know the full story, and Kyle had conveniently left out the part about gambling away his inheritance. Aunts, uncles, and cousins started calling, telling me how disappointed they were in my behavior. The worst part? Kyle started telling everyone in the family that Alex and I were financially well off, and he made it seem like I was just being greedy. He even told them that we were planning to buy a house with the inheritance, which was true, but it was money I had saved and budgeted for. Now my family sees me as some sort of villain who's using my privileged position to leave Kyle in the dust. Alex found out about everything when my mom called him, asking why we weren't helping Kyle. He was furious at Kyle for twisting the situation and at me for not telling him sooner. I had to come clean about how much I'd already given Kyle, and Alex was understandably upset. He said this wasn't just my decision to make and that we should have dealt with it together from the start. He's right, but I was trying to protect my brother, and it completely blew up in my face. Now I'm stuck in this awful position. My family is mad at me, Alex is mad that I kept this from him, and Kyle still refuses to take responsibility for what he's done. I feel like I'm losing everything I care about, and I don't know how to fix it. Update 1. It's been a few weeks, and things have gone from bad to worse. After I cut Kyle off, he went crying to my parents again, and guess what? They gave him more money, this time from their savings, not the inheritance. I tried to talk to them, tried to explain that bailing him out was only enabling his behavior, but they wouldn't listen. My mom kept saying he just needed one last chance to get back on his feet. I wish I could say it worked, but it didn't. Kyle blew through the money in record time, and within 2 weeks, he was back to where he started. I found out later that he had used the money to pay off some gambling debts, but instead of stopping, he just saw it as an opportunity to place more bets. My dad finally called me, asking if I knew what was going on because Kyle had been avoiding them. I told him everything, about Kyle's gambling, the money he'd wasted, and how I'd already helped him several times. My dad was stunned. He had no idea it was this bad. He thought Kyle had just hit a rough patch, but hearing the truth hit him hard. I could hear the disappointment and worry in his voice. Meanwhile, things with Alex were still strained. We'd had several long talks, and while he wasn't angry about the money itself, he was hurt that I hadn't been honest with him. I explained that I didn't want to burden him with my family's mess, but he said we were a team, and I shouldn't have dealt with it alone. He's right, and I apologized, but the trust issue is still hanging over us. We've been trying to work through it. Alex suggested we see a couples counselor to help us communicate better and rebuild trust. We've had a few sessions, and while it's been helpful, there's still a long way to go. The whole situation has put a strain on our plans to start a family. We've decided to put that on hold until we can sort through our issues. As if things weren't bad enough, Kyle came to me again, asking for help. This time, it wasn't just money, he wanted me to give him part of my share of the inheritance. He argued that it wasn't fair for me to keep it all when he was in such a bad place. He even tried to guilt me by saying our dad would have wanted me to help him. I couldn't believe it. I told Kyle no, that I wasn't giving him any more money, inheritance or not. Kyle got angry and stormed out, saying I was abandoning him and that I didn't care about family. He brought up all the times I'd helped him when we were younger, accusing me of changing and becoming selfish. It hurt to hear him say those things, especially when I'd done so much to try and help him. I thought that was the end of it, but now he's been spreading rumors around the extended family, telling them I'm hoarding the inheritance and refusing to help him in his time of need. I've even had a few cousins reach out, asking why I'm being so harsh with Kyle. It's like no one believes me, and they're all taking his side. The whole situation has taken a toll on my mental health. I've been having trouble sleeping, constantly worrying about what Kyle might do next or what new rumor I'll have to deal with. I've started seeing a therapist to help me cope with the stress and guilt. She's been helping me set boundaries and reminding me that I'm not responsible for Kyle's actions. At work, my performance has been suffering. I've been distracted and making small mistakes that aren't like me. My boss pulled me aside to ask if everything was okay, and I had to give a vague explanation about family problems. Thankfully, she's been understanding, but I know I need to get it together soon. Alex and I have been trying to focus on our own lives and goals. We've resumed our house hunting, but it's bittersweet. Every time we look at a potential home, I can't help but think about how this should be an exciting time for us, not one clouded by family drama. I've been trying to reach out to some old friends, people who knew Kyle and me growing up. I hope they might be able to talk some sense into him or at least provide some support. But many of them have drifted away over the years, and those who are still around seem hesitant to get involved in what they see as a family matter. As the days go by, I find myself wondering how things got to this point. I look at old family photos and barely recognize the smiling, carefree people in them. I want to help Kyle, I really do, but I don't know how to do that without enabling his destructive behavior. And I don't know how much more I can take before it destroys my own life in the process. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and things have escalated even further. Kyle disappeared for a while, not answering calls or texts, and my parents were worried sick. I wasn't surprised, he's always run away from his problems. But then, a few days later, I got a call from my cousin, saying Kyle had been spotted at a casino 2 states away. He wasn't just gambling again, he had been using the inheritance money that my parents had recently given him. My parents were devastated. They had dipped into their retirement savings to help Kyle, believing his promises that he was turning his life around. Finding out he had lied to them and gone straight back to gambling was a huge blow. But that wasn't the worst part. After some digging, we discovered that Kyle had been lying to everyone about the amount of money he owed. It wasn't just gambling debts. He had been taking out loans in our parents' names without their knowledge and using them to fuel his addiction. He had somehow gotten access to their personal information and had been opening credit cards and taking out personal loans. When my parents found out, they were absolutely heartbroken. My dad hasn't spoken to Kyle since, feeling betrayed and angry. My mom, well, she's still trying to make excuses for him, saying he's going through a tough time, but I think even she knows deep down that he's gone too far. They're now facing the possibility of financial ruin in their retirement years because of Kyle's actions. The discovery of Kyle's fraud has caused a rift in our extended family. Some relatives are still defending Kyle, saying he needs help and support, not judgment. Others are furious, feeling that he's taken advantage of everyone's goodwill. Family gatherings have become tense affairs, with arguments breaking out and old grievances being aired. As for me, I've had enough. I've tried to help Kyle, but he's thrown every bit of goodwill back in my face. I've decided to take legal steps to protect myself and my finances. I've frozen my credit, changed all my passwords, and alerted the banks to watch for any suspicious activity. It feels terrible to have to protect myself from my own brother, but I don't feel like I have a choice anymore. Alex and I have been focusing on moving forward with our lives, but the emotional toll this has taken on me is massive. We've had to put our house hunting plans on hold again, this time to save money for potential legal fees. We're also looking into therapy options for both of us, recognizing that we need help to process everything that's happened. The worst part is, I feel like I've lost my family in the process. They don't understand why I can't keep helping Kyle, and I'm tired of explaining myself. Every conversation seems to turn into an argument, and I find myself dreading phone calls from my parents or other relatives. I've started reaching out to support groups for families dealing with addiction. It's been helpful to talk to others who understand what I'm going through. They've given me advice on setting boundaries and taking care of my own mental health while dealing with a family member's addiction. As I try to navigate this mess, I can't help but wonder what the future holds. Will Kyle ever take responsibility for his actions? Will my family ever understand why I had to step back? And how do I move forward with my own life while this cloud hangs over everything? Update 3. It's been a few months since my last update, and things have finally come to a head. Kyle was arrested for fraud after one of the loans he took out in our parents' names caught up with him. He's facing serious charges, and my parents are absolutely crushed. They feel like they failed him, like they should have done more to stop him from going down this path. I try to reassure them that this isn't their fault, but it's hard for them to accept that. The arrest has forced our family to confront the reality of Kyle's actions. There's no more denying or excusing his behavior. My parents have had to hire a lawyer to deal with the financial mess Kyle created. They're working with the banks to dispute the fraudulent loans and credit cards, but it's a long and stressful process. As for me, I've made the decision to go no contact with Kyle. I can't keep getting dragged into his mess, and I need to focus on my own life. It wasn't an easy decision, and I struggled with feelings of guilt and obligation. But after talking it through with my therapist and Alex, I realized it was necessary for my own mental health and the health of my marriage. Alex has been incredibly supportive through all of this, and we've started looking at houses again. We're trying to focus on the future, even though the past is still weighing heavily on us. We've also started talking about having children again, feeling like we're finally in a place where we can consider it. At work, I've been able to regain my focus and performance. I even received a promotion recently, which has been a bright spot in all of this darkness. It's reminded me that life goes on, and that I can still achieve my goals despite the family turmoil. My relationship with my parents is still strained, but we're working on it. They're starting to understand why I had to step back from Kyle, even if it's still hard for them to accept. We're having more honest conversations about our family dynamics and how we got to this point. It's painful, but I think it's necessary for us to heal and move forward. The extended family is still divided on the issue. Some relatives have reached out to apologize for how they treated me, now that the full extent of Kyle's actions has come to light. Others are still angry, feeling like I should have done more to prevent this from happening. I'm learning to accept that I can't control how others perceive the situation. Kyle's legal troubles are ongoing. He's facing multiple charges of fraud and identity theft. The court has mandated that he attend rehab for his gambling addiction as part of any potential plea deal. I hope he takes this opportunity to get the help he needs, but I'm also wary of getting my hopes up. It hurts, but sometimes you have to walk away, even from family. Kyle made his choices, and now he has to live with the consequences. I'm trying to focus on the aspects of my life that I can control and the relationships that are healthy and supportive. Alex and I have finally found a house we love and are in the process of buying it. It feels like a fresh start, a chance to build the life we've been dreaming of. We're also planning to start trying for a baby in the next few months. These positive steps forward have helped balance out the stress and sadness of the situation with Kyle. I've continued attending support groups for families dealing with addiction, and I've even started volunteering with a local organization that provides resources for people struggling with gambling problems. It feels good to channel my experiences into something positive, to maybe help other families avoid the pain we've gone through. As I reflect on everything that's happened, I realize how much I've changed. I'm stronger now, more aware of my own boundaries and needs. I've learned that it's okay to prioritize my own well-being and that helping others doesn't mean sacrificing myself in the process. I don't know what the future holds for Kyle or for our family. I hope that one day we can rebuild our relationship, but I know that can only happen if he takes responsibility for his actions and makes real, lasting changes. For now, I'm focusing on healing, on strengthening the relationships that bring positivity to my life, and on building the future I want for myself and Alex. This experience has taught me that family is complicated. Love doesn't always look the way we expect it to, and sometimes the kindest thing we can do for someone is to stop enabling their destructive behavior. It's a hard lesson, but one I needed to learn. To anyone else going through something similar, know that you're not alone. It's okay to set boundaries, to protect yourself, and to prioritize your own well-being. Healing takes time, but it is possible. Thank you all for listening to my story. Your support and advice have meant more than you know.